what I thought we would do today, I have something that I think will be kind of fun for all of us. I've got a session set up here with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 songs, all the multi-tracks from 6 songs from different eras. We'll go in chronological order from the 60s, early 70s, mid 70s, late 70s, and then I don't have anything from the 80s, 90s, and aughts, but I do have a Lady Gaga song, which I think is in the last 10 years. And we can listen to the difference in how everything is recorded, how everything sounds. I can have a discussion with what kind of recording equipment was used. I think it'll be really instructive, and maybe I'll even start remixing some of these because some of them are very dry. So let's start off with a song that we've heard before. We do the remix project at the end of Audio MIDI 1. We use this track here. So let me play this and then we'll talk about it. So this is a Motown track. Yeah, so they would have been faded out by then. Yeah, you guys know the song and remember the project. Yeah, but when I did the project with you guys, I gave you less tracks, a different version of it that I have. Let's count up the number of tracks there are in this. So there's 2 tracks of drums. Let's make them the same color, actually. 2 tracks of drums. There's a track of bass, so that's 3. There's tracks of guitars. There's piano and bells. There's strings, vocals, and vocals. So there's 8 tracks, I believe. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. This is recorded onto an 8-track analog tape machine. For that time, that's actually fairly substantial number of tracks because Motown did a lot of their recording onto a 3-track machine. So they'd have the instruments on 2 tracks and the vocals on the 3rd track. An 8-track machine for them was kind of like a luxury. And the other thing I love about this track, not only because it's from my childhood, I remember it, there's no click track. It's live players in a room creating fabulous grooves. And the way that they recorded this would be they would have chord charts written out and the arrangers and the composers would get together with the rhythm section and they'd work out the rhythm section part and they'd record the rhythm section part. And then they'd have maybe there'd be a scratch vocal that's recorded afterwards. Then they'd have the orchestra sounds on here. They'd have those people come in and overdub that at a later date. But they'd always try to get the really hot rhythm section performance, and they had incredible players. Benny Benjamin on drums, the great James Jamerson on the bass, Earl, I forget his last name, but the piano player is great. The guy who plays vibes and tambourine. There's a great movie called Standing in the Shadows of Motown. It's when most of the guys were still alive, and they talk about how the incredible situation it was and how much they loved doing it. But then how, after like 6 or 7 years, the Motown moved to Los Angeles. They were making $100,000 a year doing session work for that 6 or 7 year period, which would be like the equivalent of like $500,000 a year now. Then all of a sudden it dried up and then there was nothing. And they went back to doing the stuff they were doing before Motown. Those were all cash, not union sessions, so they didn't have any benefits like a pension or anything. Okay, so let's take a listen to the drums. And this is the first track of drums. You guys, some of you have heard that before. Right? And then there's a second track of drums right here. Comes in, just helps with some of the fills. Right? Makes it much more powerful. I mean, that's okay, but that's not as good as this. And you can really hear, you can hear that pitch, da, 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 dum, dum, dum. There's that ringing pitch in the toms, and then you can hear the buzz of the snare drum. That's because they just had one microphone for all the drums, or maybe a couple of microphones. You didn't have everything separated out and muffled and dead. Oh, and also the Motown recording studio was like in somebody's basement in a residential neighborhood that's like Kew Gardens or something like that. It was really like wild. I went there in 1990. I was on tour and we played at the Fox Theater in Detroit for 2 weeks. And I didn't go out of my hotel room except to go to the food court in the mall across the way. And I used it was an enclosed thing to go to the food court and then go to do the gig, to walk from the bus to the theater. But I did get out and take a cab to the Motown studios because it's now a museum and you can go in and you could play the piano and you could check out the whole situation there. I found that really, really enjoyable. So let's see what happens when the drums are playing a little bit more. Let's add the second drum. So it's two drummers playing in a room. Benny Benjamin is the one guy, and then there was a guy named Pete something or other. I can't remember his last name. I'm having a Halfheimer moment here right now, but they're both playing in the room at the same time. Playing in the chorus to add more energy. Then there's the bass, which is a Fender Precision bass. Right, so we'll move ahead to the verse. So it's a very dark sound, right? It's almost like there's no treble on it at all. And he's using flat, I could tell from listening to it that he's using flat wound strings, which was the kind of strings they used back in that day. And it's a Fender Precision bass. I just know that from knowing the history of this stuff. A lot of bass players used their index and middle finger to pluck the notes. He only used his index finger. So he could play unbelievably fast lines at times if you listen to the whole Motown catalog. And he's all doing that with his index finger. It's really amazing. This guy influenced generations and still influences generations of bass players. John Paul Jones and Led Zeppelin heavily influenced. Paul McCartney heavily influenced. Even Flea from the Hot Chili Peppers heavily influenced by this guy because he's unbelievably great. Right, so that's the first. See how tight that is? So we change key. Now let's listen to a little bit of the guitar track. So Motown used 3 guitar players in the room at the same time. So you got one guy going, chip, chip, chip. And then you got one guy strumming in the mid-range, and you got another guy strumming with the lower strings on the guitar. I don't know if you can hear that. If we had them on separate tracks, all 3 guitar players on the same track, and they all played live in the room next to each other, they'd work out who played what. So they weren't all playing the same thing. And it's like you get this layer of guitars. It's almost like a guitar-me. And they're really tight. But notice the sound and what they're playing never gets in the way of the bass guitar. Really well orchestrated. The bass and the guitars, you know, it's like the bass is down here and the guitars are all up here, and there's a little bit of space sonically, pitch-wise, in the frequency register between them, you know, and it really works out. It's really fantastic. Great. Let's listen to the piano and the bells. So let's start from the top. Listen to the piano going bam. Ba-ba-bam, ba-ba-bam. Right, exactly. The piano player also is really rhythmically great. Earl, can't think of his last name, but he's just a tremendous piano player. The piano player is going bam, ba-ba-bam. He's not going boop, boop, tap, no, he's not doing that, right? Because what he's playing fits in with the guitars. And the bass. Remember I said everything has to sound good in different combinations? So let's just listen to the bass and the piano. Nothing the piano player's left hand does gets in the way of the bass. Let's listen to the piano and the guitars. Even down to the way that he's voicing the chords of the piano fits in beautifully with the guitars. A little bluesy feel, bwap, bwap, when he can. Yeah, it's funny because when you're listening to the song, you're just digging the song. You're not really paying attention to how much detail there is. But when you break it down, you isolate those tracks, every one of those elements works together to create a big hit song that, that's the people were digging when I was a little tyke. It helps when you've got Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell singing. All right, so let's listen to the members from the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. Let's go from the top. And pizzicato strings, too. No, you could never do that. Not a whole orchestra, maybe like 15, 20 people. Detroit Symphony. So there's like some French horn trombone-y things. Isn't that beautiful, right? It's like a whole symphony. All right, remember, different sections sounding good together. Guitars and orchestra. Pizzicato. So you can when you're listening to the violins, right, you can actually hear the individual instruments because it's probably only like 6, maybe 8, might even be as little as 4 violins. You can hear the individual instruments and the vibrato of the players, especially in that one section here after this bit. Beautiful cellos in there, the lower ones. Tremolos. Changing keys. Now we're changed key. Parts come back, but they're transformed, right? So listen to this. So I think it would be here. So this is the first time this section comes in. Right? And then after the key change. Got those the horns or trombones. Whoa. Right? Let's play the bass with the strings. Let's get into the real selling point.
Listen, baby, ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low, ain't no river wide enough, baby.
If you need me, call me, no matter where you are, no matter how far.
Don't worry, baby.
Just call my name, I'll be there in a hurry. You don't have to worry, cause baby, there ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley.
So I like with Motown, with a couple of these tracks I have the isolated stems from, the multi-tracks from, I like to listen to the bass and the vocal track. So let's...
Ain't no river, ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you, baby.
Remember the day.
No, Joshua, it's not. It's just, this is what worked with them.
You could always count on me, darling. From that day on, I made a vow. I'll be there when you want me, some way, somehow. Oh, baby, there ain't no mountain.
I think that the way the bass interacts with the lead with the vocals is beautiful.
Ain't no river wide enough.
Now let's listen to the orchestration with the voices.
Ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting.
All supportive. Now listen to this one bit.
Cause baby, there ain't no mountain
Long
high
notes
enough,
on the strings.
ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough to keep me.
Ain't no valley, ain't no valley, ain't no valley. Long held notes on the strings. Then to keep me from getting to you, there's like a fraction of a second break in the vocals. And then you've got dit. filling in that line there. That's a great orchestrational technique, and that can be translated into modern music very easily. You could study this old recording on many levels, not just the song, but orchestration and arranging techniques. The concepts are still the same. The sounds and production techniques are different, but
to keep me from getting to you, baby. Remember the day. Never wide enough to keep me from getting to you, baby.
and then the way he dum bum da, ba, 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 and then it goes into the tremolo on the strings. Just really. And let's listen to this part with them.
To keep me from getting to you, baby. Remember the day I set you free. I told you you could always count on me, darling.
Nice counterpoint between the strings and the lyric.
I'll be there when you want me, some way, somehow. Oh, baby, there ain't no mountain high enough. Ain't no valley low.
All right, and then let's see.
Oh, no, darling.
No wind, no rain, or winter's cold can stop me, baby.
No, no, baby.
'Cause you are my
If you're ever in
gold.
trouble, I'll be there on the double. Just send for me, oh, baby.
My love is alive, way down in my heart, although we are miles apart.
If you ever need a helping hand,
I like this thing too, in Marvin's track.
woo.
You got the foot tap.
If you ever need a helping hand, I'll be.
Now, when you listen to the vocals, right, he's got a gospel-y kind of shout to his voice, and that's aided by the recording technology of the day, right? There's tape saturation, and it's probably a tube microphone that's saturated, going through a tube preamp, right? So you're getting all of these various parts of the recording chain that can saturate and add additional harmonics to his singing, so that it's almost like a little slight bit of distortion on some of his raspier things.
If you ever need a helping hand, I'll be there on the double just as fast as I can. Don't you know that there ain't no mountain high enough?
You hear that? Ha!
Ain't no valley low enough. Ain't no river wide enough.
That's the sound of this time period. Distortion, it adds excitement. And we'll go over that in next semester's class, those of you that are taking it. Tasteful use of distortion can excite your music beautifully. We'll play a little bit more of this.
If you need me, call me, no matter where you are, no matter how far.
Don't worry, baby.
Just call my name, I'll be there in a hurry. You don't have to worry, 'cause baby, there ain't no mountain high enough. Ain't no valley low enough. Ain't no river wide enough
To keep me from getting to you, baby. Remember the day I set you free. I told you you could always count on me, darling. From that day on, I made a vow. I'll be there when you want me, some way, somehow. Oh,
Baby,
baby,
there ain't no mountain high enough. Ain't no valley low enough. Ain't no river wide enough
to keep me from getting to you, baby. Oh, no, darling.
No wind, no rain, or winter's cold can stop me, baby.
No, no, baby.
'Cause you are
So Kimberly makes a point here. The voice is grainy and the grain is tempered. That's right, because he's got the control over his voice. But there's also the grain is enhanced by the saturation of the tubes and the tape, and the way that adds sort of like a natural compression the tape does and the tubes do, but also extra harmonics from the tube. It's really an interesting technique that adds to the excitement of the piece. You know, I can't tell you what it was like in the 1960s when this music was being played, and just you didn't have what you have now with the oversaturation of ways that you can get access to music. You had radio stations with DJs that would play songs. Most of us listened to this stuff on AM radios and in car on AM radio. There were only a couple of stations that you would listen to in your area. Everybody knew these songs. Everybody. So they were just such big hits. Anyway, really, really great.